Listen carefully, because this is not just another message you scroll past. This is something that feels different in your spirit the moment you hear it. Something heavier, something deeper, something that seems to echo inside your chest like it was always meant to find you. Because heaven has just marked your name, and this is not a small thing. This is not temporary. This is not something that can be erased or undone. This is something eternal. Something written beyond time, beyond fear. Beyond the doubts that have been holding you back for so long, and whether you realize it or not, your life has already started shifting in ways you cannot fully explain yet. You may have noticed things falling apart recently, people distancing themselves, plans collapsing without warning, moments where you questioned everything and wondered why nothing seemed to stay stable. But what you didn't see was that those were not random. Those were divine interruptions, carefully orchestrated. Moments designed to remove everything that could not go where you are being called, because when heaven marks a name, it does not negotiate with what is temporary, it does not compromise with what is false, it begins a process that separates you from everything that no longer aligns with your purpose. And yes, it feels painful, it feels confusing, it feels like loss, but what is actually happening is alignment. You are being repositioned for something that cannot be stopped anymore, and the reason this feels so intense is because deep inside you, there is a part of you that recognizes this truth, even if your mind is still trying to catch up, even if your fear is still whispering that you are not ready, because the truth is, this was never about your readiness, this was about your calling. And your calling does not wait for you to feel perfect, it moves when the time is written. And your time has been written long before you ever doubted yourself, long before you ever felt lost. Long before you ever questioned your worth, and now that moment is no longer approaching, it is here, it has already begun, and there is no turning back from it. You might try to ignore it. You might try to go back to what felt safe, to what felt familiar, but you will notice something very strange. Nothing feels the same anymore. Things that once satisfied you now feel empty. Conversations that once excited you now feel shallow. Environments that once felt comfortable now feel suffocating, and that is because your spirit has been awakened to something higher. Something that refuses to settle for less, something that knows there is more for you even when you are afraid to admit it. And this is where many people get stuck. This is where many people turn back, because growth is uncomfortable, transformation is not gentle, it shakes you, it stretches you, it forces you to confront parts of yourself you tried to ignore. But understand this, you were not marked to remain the same. You were marked to evolve, to rise, to step into something that most people are too afraid to even imagine. And the moment heaven placed that mark on your name, a chain reaction began. Doors started closing not to punish you but to protect your path. Delays started happening not to frustrate you but to prepare you. Silence started surrounding you not to isolate you but to help you hear what truly matters. And if you look closely, you will realize that even in your hardest moments, there was always something guiding you, something preventing you from completely falling apart, something reminding you that this is not the end, and that something is not random, that is divine intention, that is the evidence that you are being watched over, that your story is being written with purpose. And right now, you are standing in a chapter that feels uncertain, a chapter that feels like everything is changing all at once. But this is not chaos. This is construction. This is the rebuilding of your life in a way that aligns with what has already been decided for you. And yes, There will be moments where you feel like giving up, moments where you question why you were chosen for something that feels so heavy, but understand this clearly: you were never chosen to be comfortable, you were chosen to be significant, and significance comes with pressure, it comes with responsibility, it comes with moments where you feel like you are walking alone. But you are not alone, you are being guided in ways you cannot always see, and the more you trust this process, the more you will start to notice small signs, small confirmations, small moments that remind you that you are exactly where you need to be, even when it doesn't make sense. And the most powerful part of this entire journey is this: the mark on your name cannot be removed, it cannot be reversed, it cannot be given to someone else. What has been assigned to you is yours. And no amount of fear, no amount of doubt, no amount of delay can change that. The only thing you can do is either resist it or step into it, and resisting it will only make the process harder, it will only create more confusion, more frustration, because deep down, you already know that you are meant for something more, you already feel it. That quiet voice inside you that refuses to settle, that constant feeling that there is something bigger waiting for you, that is not imagination, that is calling. And the moment you stop running from it, the moment you stop doubting it, everything will begin to shift in a way that feels almost unbelievable. Opportunities will start appearing, clarity will start replacing confusion, strength will start replacing fear, and you will look back at this moment and realize that this was the turning point. This was the moment everything changed, not because your circumstances suddenly became perfect, but because you finally understood what was happening. You finally accepted that your life is not random, that your struggles were not meaningless, that your journey has been leading to this exact moment. And now that you are here, now that you have been marked, there is only one direction left to go: forward, into the unknown, into the uncomfortable, into the extraordinary, because what is waiting for you is not something ordinary, it is something that requires you to become a version of yourself you have never been before. And that transformation has already begun, whether you feel ready or not, whether you understand it or not, because heaven does not make mistakes, and if your name has been marked, then your path has already been secured, your purpose has already been defined, and your future has already been set into motion. The only question that remains now is this: will you trust it? Will you walk into it? Will you rise into the person you were always meant to become, or will you let fear hold you back from something that cannot be undone? Because this is not just a message, this is a moment, this is a shift, this is
the beginning of something that will change everything, and once it starts, it does not stop, it only moves forward, just like you are meant to do now. What you are about to understand now goes even deeper, because being marked by heaven is not just about what you gain, it is also about what you must release, and this is the part most people never talk about: the silent separation, the quiet endings. The moments where you feel like everything familiar is slipping through your hands and you cannot hold on to it no matter how hard you try, and it is in these moments that the truth becomes undeniable: you are no longer allowed to stay where you once belonged, because the version of you that fit into those spaces no longer exists, and that realization can feel lonely. It can feel like you are being pulled away from everything at once, but what is really happening is something far more powerful than loss. It is refinement. It is the process of removing every distraction, every attachment, every limitation that would interfere with where you are being taken, because understand this clearly: when heaven marks your name, it does not prepare a small path for you, it prepares something that requires clarity, strength, and alignment at a level most people never reach, and that is why the pressure you feel right now is not ordinary pressure. It is not the kind of stress that breaks you, it is the kind that reshapes you. The kind that forces you to grow beyond your comfort. Beyond your excuses, beyond the identity you have been holding onto for so long, and yes, there will be moments where you question everything, moments where you wonder if you are losing more than you are gaining, but that is only because you are still looking at it from the perspective of who you used to be, not from the perspective of who you are becoming. And the gap between those two versions of you is exactly where this tension exists. It is the space where transformation happens, and transformation is never easy. It requires you to let go of what feels safe in order to step into what is true, and truth is not always comfortable. Sometimes it forces you to admit that you outgrew certain people, certain habits, certain environments long before you were ready to leave them behind, and now you are being pushed to finally do it, not because you failed, not because you did something wrong, but because you are being elevated, and elevation always comes with separation, always. There is no way around it, because you cannot carry everything with you into a higher level. Some things simply do not belong there, and the sooner you accept that, the easier this journey becomes, because resistance is what creates suffering, not the change itself, and right now, you are being asked to trust something you cannot fully see yet, to move forward without having all the answers, to believe in a path that is still unfolding in front of you, and that takes courage, real courage, the kind that does not rely on certainty but moves anyway, the kind that says even if I do not understand this moment, I trust that it is leading me somewhere greater, and that kind of faith is what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck, because the truth is, not everyone who is called will answer, not everyone who is marked will step into it, some will turn back, some will choose comfort over purpose. Some will ignore the signs until they fade away, but you are still here, you are still listening, something inside you is still holding on, still searching, still refusing to settle, and that is not by accident, that is because you are meant to go further than most people ever will, you are meant to experience something that requires you to become stronger, wiser, more aware of who you truly are, and that process is happening right now, even in the moments where it feels like nothing is changing. Even in the moments where you feel stuck or uncertain, things are moving beneath the surface, things are aligning in ways you cannot yet see, and one day, sooner than you think, everything will start to make sense. You will see why certain doors had to close. You will understand why certain people had to leave. You will realize that every delay, every setback, every moment of confusion was actually guiding you towards something that was worth it, something that required perfect timing, not rushed timing. And this is where patience becomes your greatest strength, because what is being prepared for you cannot be rushed, it cannot be forced. It has to unfold exactly as it is meant to, and your role in this is not to control every detail, your role is to remain aligned, to remain open, to remain willing to grow even when it feels uncomfortable, because the moment you start fighting the process, the moment you start trying to go back to what was, you will feel it immediately, that heaviness, that resistance. That sense that something is off, and that is your sign that you are not meant to go backwards anymore, you are meant to move forward, even if it is slow, even if it is uncertain, even if it requires you to step into unfamiliar territory, because that is where your next level exists, not in the past, not in what you already know, but in what you have yet to discover. And this is the shift that changes everything. The moment you stop asking why this is happening to me and start asking what is this preparing me for, because that question opens a completely different perspective. It moves you from confusion into purpose, from frustration into understanding, and once that shift happens, you will begin to see your journey differently. You will begin to recognize that nothing has been wasted, that every experience has been shaping you into someone who can handle what is coming next, someone who is ready for the opportunities, the responsibilities, the impact that lies ahead. And that is the real reason this cannot be undone, because it is not just about an external mark. It is about an internal transformation that has already begun, a transformation that is changing the way you think, the way you feel, the way you see yourself and your future, and once that shift happens, there is no going back to who you were before, there is no returning to the old mindset, the old patterns, the old limitations, because you have seen too much, you have felt too much, you have grown beyond that point. And even if you try to go back, it will never feel right again, because you have been awakened to something greater, something that will not let you settle, something that will keep pushing you forward no matter how uncomfortable it gets, and that is the power of being marked. It is not just a moment, it is a movement, it is a continuous unfolding of your purpose, your identity, your destiny, and right now, you are in the middle of it. Right now, you are becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone more aligned with what has been waiting for you all along, and even though there are still questions, still uncertainties, one thing is absolutely certain, you are not the same person you were before this started, and you will never be that person again, because once heaven marks your name, it changes you in ways that cannot be reversed, it sets you on a path that cannot be ignored, and it calls you into a life that cannot be undone, no matter how much you try to resist it, no matter how much you doubt it, because what has been written for you is already in motion. And the only thing left now is for you to keep moving with it, step by step, moment by moment, until you fully step into everything you were meant to become. Right now, without even realizing it, you are standing at the edge of a version of your life that once felt impossible to reach, and the reason it feels so intense, so overwhelming, so almost unreal at times is because this is the exact moment where everything begins to lock into place in a way that cannot be reversed, because when heaven marks your name, it does not just prepare blessings, it activates a chain of events that begins to pull you into alignment whether you feel ready or not, and this is the part where your faith is tested in ways you never expected, not the easy kind of faith that exists when everything is going well, but the deep, unshakable kind that is built in silence, in uncertainty. In those moments where you have no clear evidence yet something inside you refuses to give up, because what you are experiencing now is the final stretch between who you used to be and who you are becoming, and that stretch is not meant to be comfortable, it is meant to transform you completely, it is meant to strip away every last layer of doubt, every hidden fear, every piece of your identity that was built on limitation instead of truth, and that is why things may feel heavier than ever before. Because you are not just changing your circumstances, you are changing your entire internal foundation, the way you think, the way you respond, the way you see yourself and your future, and that kind of transformation requires pressure. It requires moments where you feel stretched beyond your limits, because those limits were never meant to define you, they were meant to be broken, and now you are breaking them whether you realize it or not, and as this process continues, you will begin to notice something very powerful happening within you. A new level of clarity, a new level of awareness, a new level Of strength that does not come from external validation but from something much deeper, something that feels rooted, something that feels certain even when everything around you seems uncertain, and that is the shift that confirms that you are no longer operating from your old self, you are stepping into your true self, the one that was always there but had been buried under fear, doubt, and past experiences. And now that self is rising, slowly but surely, and as it rises, it begins to change. Everything around you, your decisions become sharper, your boundaries become stronger, your vision becomes clearer, and you start to move differently. You start to carry yourself with a quiet confidence that does not need approval, because it is built on knowing, not guessing. And this is where your life begins to separate from what it used to be in a way that is undeniable, because you can no longer pretend to be who you were. You can no longer settle for what you once accepted, you can no longer ignore the calling that has been placed on your life, because it is no longer a distant feeling, it is a present reality. It is something you feel every single day, pushing you forward, guiding you, correcting you, aligning you, and even when you try to slow down or hesitate, that pull does not disappear, it only grows stronger, because you are being drawn towards something that has already been prepared for you. Something that is waiting for you to fully step into it, and this is the moment where everything you have been through starts to reveal its purpose. Every struggle, every delay, every moment of confusion begins to make sense, not all at once, but piece by piece, until you realize that nothing was random, nothing was wasted, everything was shaping you, everything was preparing you, everything was leading you to this exact point, and now that you are here, there is a decision that only you can make. A decision that will determine how this next chapter unfolds, and that decision is whether you will fully trust what is happening or continue to question it, because trust is what unlocks the next level, trust is what allows things to flow, to align, to come together in ways that you could never force on your own, and the moment you truly trust, not partially, not conditionally, but fully, you will feel a shift so powerful that it will change the way you experience everything. Fear will begin to lose its hold on you. Doubt will start to fade, and in its place will come a sense of peace. A sense of certainty that you are exactly where you are meant to be, doing exactly what you are meant to be doing, even if the full picture is not visible yet, and that is when things start to accelerate. Opportunities begin to appear out of nowhere, connections begin to form naturally, doors that once seemed closed suddenly open without struggle, because you are now in alignment with what has already been set in motion for you. And alignment changes everything, it removes resistance, it clears the path, it allows things to happen with a level of ease that feels almost unbelievable compared to the struggle you experienced before, and this is why this cannot be undone, because you are no longer the same person, you are no longer operating from the same mindset, you are no longer living within the same limitations, you have crossed a threshold that permanently changes the direction of your life. And even if you try to go back, even if you try to return to what felt familiar, you will feel it instantly, that disconnect, that sense that you do not belong there anymore, because you have outgrown it in a way that cannot be reversed, and that is not something to fear, that is something to embrace, because it means you are moving forward, it means you are evolving. It means you are stepping into a life that is greater than anything you have experienced before, and yes, there will still be challenges. There will still be moments of uncertainty, but they will no longer have the same power over you, because you will face them from a place of strength, from a place of understanding, from a place of knowing that everything you go through now is part of something bigger, something that is leading you exactly where you are meant to go, and as you continue on this path, as you continue to trust, to grow, to step forward even when it feels uncomfortable, you will begin to see the full impact of what it means to be marked. Not just in your own life, but in the lives of others, because your transformation will begin to influence those around you, your strength will inspire others, your journey will become a testimony of what is possible when someone chooses to trust the process instead of running from it, and that is the final layer of this calling. It is not just about you, it is about what flows through you, it is about the impact you are meant to have, the lives you are meant to touch, the change you are meant to create. And that is why this is so powerful, that is why this is so unstoppable, because it is bigger than your fears, bigger than your doubts, bigger than anything that tries to hold you back. And now that you have reached this point, now that you have come this far, there is only one thing left to do: fully step into it, fully embrace it, fully become the person you were always meant to be, because heaven did not mark your name for you to stay the same, it marked your name for you to rise, to transform, to step into a destiny that cannot be undone, no matter what stands in your way, no matter how difficult the path may seem, because what has been written for you is already unfolding, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop it now. And now you are entering the phase that very few people ever reach, the phase where everything becomes real, not in theory, not in imagination, but in actual lived experience, where the things you once hoped for begin to show signs of manifestation, where the internal shifts you have been going through start reflecting in your external reality, and this is exactly where the weight of being marked becomes undeniable. Because this is not just about feeling different anymore, this is about living differently, choosing differently, moving differently in ways that separate you completely from the version of yourself that once hesitated, doubted, and held back. And this is also where the final resistance tries to appear. Not from the outside but from within, subtle thoughts that question whether you are truly ready, whether you can actually handle what is coming, whether you deserve the level you are stepping into. And these thoughts can feel convincing because they sound familiar, they echo patterns you have carried for years, but this is the moment where everything changes, because now you are aware, now you can see those thoughts for what they are, not truth, but remnants of an old identity that no longer has control over you unless you allow it. And this awareness is your power. This is what gives you the ability to choose differently, to respond differently, to no longer shrink when you feel pressure but to expand into it, because pressure is no longer something that breaks you, it is something that reveals you, it is something that shows you exactly how far you have come, exactly how strong you have become. And as you stand in this space, you begin to notice a level of confidence that is not loud, not forced, but deeply rooted, a confidence that does not need validation. Because it comes from knowing, from experience, from everything you have already survived and overcome. And this is where your presence starts to change, the way people see you, the way situations respond to you, the way opportunities begin to find you instead of you chasing them, because you are no longer operating from lack, you are operating from alignment, and alignment carries a different energy. One that attracts rather than chases, one that receives rather than forces, and this shift alone changes the entire dynamic of your life. Because now you are no longer trying to make things happen, you are allowing what is meant for you to come into place, and that does not mean you stop taking action, It means your actions are no longer driven by fear or desperation, they are guided by clarity and purpose, and that difference is what creates results that feel almost effortless compared to the struggle you experienced before. And as this continues, you will begin to see something even more powerful unfold, a sense of peace that remains even in uncertainty, a sense of stability that is not dependent on external circumstances, and this is the true confirmation that you have stepped into your new identity, because peace at this level is not something that comes from everything being perfect, it comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you are equipped to handle it, you are guided, you are protected, and you are exactly where you are meant to be, and this knowing changes everything. It removes the need to control every outcome, it allows you to move with trust instead of fear, and that is when life begins to flow in a way that feels almost synchronized, moments aligning at the right time, opportunities appearing exactly when you are ready for them, people entering your life who reflect the level you have grown into, and this is where you begin to understand the true meaning of what it means to be marked. It is not just about reaching a destination, it is about becoming a person who naturally attracts what once felt out of reach, and that transformation is something that cannot be undone, because it is now part of who you are, it is now embedded in the way you think, the way you feel, the way you move through the world, and even when challenges arise, even when things do not go exactly as planned, you no longer collapse under pressure, you adapt, you adjust. You keep moving forward with a level of resilience that you did not have before, and that is the final proof of your growth, not the absence of challenges, but your ability to face them without losing yourself, without losing your direction, without losing your belief in what is unfolding. And as you continue on this path, something else becomes clear, something that changes your perspective completely. You realize that this journey was never just about achieving something external, it was about becoming someone internal, someone who is aligned, someone who is aware, someone who is capable of holding the level of life that is now unfolding. And this realization removes the last layer of doubt, because you understand that you are not chasing something outside of you, you are embodying something within you, and once you embody it, it reflects outward naturally, effortlessly, consistently, and this is why there is no going back, because you cannot unsee what you now understand, you cannot unknow what you now feel. You cannot return to a mindset that you have already outgrown, and that is the power of this moment, that is the significance of being marked. It is a permanent shift, a complete transformation, a new way of existing that changes everything from this point forward. And now as you stand here, fully aware, fully present, fully aligned with what has been unfolding, there is a sense of completion. Not an ending, but the completion of an old cycle, the closing of a chapter that prepared you for everything that comes next, and what comes next is not to fear, it is something you are ready for, something you have been prepared for in ways you are only now beginning to understand, and as you step into this next phase, you do so with a level of certainty that cannot be shaken, a level of belief that cannot be broken. Because you have seen the process, you have felt the transformation, you have lived through the moments that brought you here, and now there is no doubt left, only movement, only progress, only the continuous unfolding of a life that has already been set into motion the moment heaven marked your name, and from this point forward, everything you do, everything you choose, everything you become will carry the imprint of that moment, the moment that changed everything, the moment that could never be undone, the moment that defined the path you are now walking, a path that leads forward, always forward, into everything you were meant to be and everything you were always destined to become, and now you arrive at the part of this journey that feels almost surreal, the part where you begin to recognize that everything you once questioned has quietly transformed into something you now understand, not perfectly, not completely, but enough to realize that you were never lost, you were being led, and this realization does not come like a loud announcement, it comes like a calm certainty, a deep inner knowing that settles within you and changes the way you see everything from this moment forward, because now you can look back and see the pattern. You can see how every delay had a purpose, how every ending created space, how every moment of confusion was actually guiding you toward clarity, and once you see that, something inside you finally relaxes, not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you no longer feel the need to fight against what is happening, you no longer feel the need to question every step. You begin to move with it instead of against it, and that is where true power begins, because flow replaces resistance, trust replaces fear, and clarity replaces doubt, and as this shift deepens, you start to notice something even more profound. You are no longer reacting to life the way you used to, you are responding from a place of awareness, a place of control, a place of understanding that everything unfolding now is connected to something greater than what you can see in this exact moment. And that awareness changes the way you handle everything. Challenges no longer feel like attacks, they feel like assignments. Opportunities no longer feel like pressure, they feel like alignment, and even the unknown no longer feels threatening, it feels like expansion, like possibility, like something that is opening up rather than closing in, and this is the moment where your identity fully shifts, not partially, not temporarily, but completely, because now you are no longer defined by your past. You are defined by your direction, by where you are going, by who you are becoming. And that shift is what makes this entire journey irreversible, because once your identity changes at this level, everything else follows, your choices change, your habits change, your environment changes, your results change, and it all happens not because you forced it, but because it became natural, it became aligned with who you are now, and as you continue forward, there will be moments where you pause and realize just how far you have come, moments where you see yourself handling situations with a level of strength and calm that once felt impossible, moments where you recognize that the person you used to be would not even believe the version of you that exists now, and those moments will remind you that this was real, that this transformation truly happened, that you truly stepped into something greater than what you once knew, and as powerful as that is, there is something even deeper that begins to unfold. A sense of purpose that goes beyond personal success, a sense of meaning that connects you to something larger than yourself, because now you begin to understand that this journey was never just about you reaching a certain level, it was about you becoming someone who could impact others, someone who could reflect strength, clarity, and truth in a way that inspires those who are still where you once were. And this is where your presence itself becomes powerful, not because you try to influence anyone, but because who you are now naturally creates that influence. Your energy changes rooms, your words carry weight, your actions create impact, and this is the true manifestation of being marked. It is not just about what you receive, it is about what flows through you into the world around you. And that is why this cannot be undone, because it is no longer just about your life, it is about every life you will touch moving forward, every moment where your story becomes someone else's hope, every instance where your growth becomes proof that transformation is possible, And as you fully embrace this, as you fully step into this version of yourself without hesitation, without doubt, without looking back, you will begin to experience a level of fulfillment that is different from anything you have ever felt before, not the temporary satisfaction of achieving something external, but the deep, lasting fulfillment of knowing that you are living in alignment with what you were meant for. And that feeling is something that cannot be taken away, because it does not depend on circumstances. It comes from within. It comes from the connection you now have with your purpose, with your path, with the truth of who you are, and from this point forward, everything continues to expand, not in a rushed or chaotic way, but in a steady, intentional, aligned way that builds over time into something extraordinary, something that reflects not just where you are, but everything you have become. And as this continues, as you keep moving forward with this awareness, this trust, this alignment, you will eventually reach a point where you no longer question whether you were truly marked, because you will be living the evidence of it every single day, in your growth, in your strength, in your peace, in your impact, and that is the final confirmation, the undeniable proof that this was real from the very beginning, that this moment was always meant to happen, that your name being marked was not just a message, it was a turning point, a defining moment that set everything into motion. And now as you stand here, having gone through the process, having felt the transformation, having stepped into your new identity, there is only one truth left to hold on to, one truth that will guide you through everything that comes next, and that truth is simple yet powerful. You are no longer becoming, you have become, and from this point forward, your life is no longer about searching, it is about living, fully, boldly, unapologetically in alignment with everything that was set into motion the moment heaven marked your name, a moment that changed everything, a moment that cannot be undone, a moment that continues to echo through every step you take as you move forward into a life that is now